Hello, my name is Alexander Speed, and this is my mastery journal, as well as the beginning of a very, very interesting journey. So, before I began my journey into mastery, I was stuck in a cloud. In this cloud, I was lost to the idea that I would never really amount to anything extraordinary in my life. I graduated with a bachelor's degree in mass communication with a minor in English. Despite the degrees and what I believed to be the right path, I realized very quickly that it wasn't the avenue that I was prepared for, nor was it the one that I actually wanted. By the time I realized it, 6 years had passed and I was still in a low-paying job as an assistant. I realized in that funk that it was time for a change. The day came where I started my first class in the mastery course under Dr. Spellman. I was initially worried that I was not cut out to be a part of the program, that I would end up failing after the first assignment. An aspect of me was that I have a very short attention span to many things that didn't interest me. And so I was afraid that it would apply here to these assignments as well, and that was one of my greatest fears upon entering this whole mastery course. However, to my surprise, I found something else in these courses. The first assignment was the discussion of grit and ambition. In this part of the course, I spoke on the highs and lows of both aspects. Of them, my lows for grit were my inconsistent interests, my setbacks to not properly planning, and a lack of focus. Ambition was my low drive to succeed and my lack of aim to be the best in the world. These were all things that I was afraid would get in the way of my success. However, as I continued researching and writing, I realized how much my highs could have been my strengths. My obsession with an idea, my hard work, and my dedication to work that could take years to complete. Those were the aspects of grit that I was proud of the most. For ambition, it was to achieve something of great importance and disagreeing that achievements were overrated. A part of me sort of accepted my flaws that almost scared me off of this course. But now I realize that these weaknesses would have to be a core aspect of my success. Strategies for finding my life's task was one of the more difficult assignments for me. It wasn't so much the assignment itself, but rather the use of technology that kind of held me back. I remember spending days just having to edit everything together and then just trying to upload it. But despite all that, the real purpose of the assignment reminded me of what I should be focusing on the most, and that is my strategies. Of them were my returning to my origins, the perfect niche, avoiding false paths, letting go of the past, and finding my way back to my roots. The next assignment was of the dimensional mind. And for that one, it was a little more personal because I really got to get into my whole thing as a hypochondriac, which has been something that has been plaguing me for years now. This one was particularly difficult. It definitely reached into something that I had been dealing with for a couple years now. But with it came an impactful idea of the dimensional mind, the fusion of my childlike wonder interjecting with my adult sensibilities. I still use this way of thinking to combat many of my personal strifes with my hypochondria, as well as discovering new ways to adapt to my new challenges in this course. The key to mastery taught me of the different minds rather than just the dimensional, to keep my original mind intact, but to also dilute my conventional mind from being the superior throughout processes. The conventional mind reminds me of Wolfgang Mozart. He had been put into a lifestyle by his father, Leopold, to do music that was safe and conventional of the times. However, Mozart wanted more. He saw opera as his calling, and he wanted to break away from his father's conventional mind in order to reach his own dimensional process. Not only to bring purpose to his work, but to also assuage his insatiable thoughts that he would die young and had to do everything he could in the short amount of time he had on Earth. I relate to this to a deeper level, as sometimes I have those thoughts too, where I feel like I have limited time to do what I want. I'm just happy and thankful that I'm not the only one. What would come later would be one of my favorite papers to write, focusing on comic books and particularly comic book art. And this particular paper focused on a comic book artist that I personally feel is one of my all-time favorites, Jack Kirby. I had fun writing this essay, due to learning about the comic book industry from back in the day, as well as seeing Kirby's long list of careers that he had worked through before finding his calling in Marvel and DC. His passions and natural talents for the arts were inspirational to my own skill set. He continues to be one of my idols for his creative strategies, as well as pulling himself up from his emotional pitfalls in order to create such a legend that he has. He's been prominent for some of the best comic book characters in both Marvel and DC, but mostly Marvel. Fantastic Four, Captain America, Black Panther, as well as technically being the first to create the concept of Spider-Man. And finally, there is the brainstorming assessment. This was where I categorized my goals and how I planned about going through them, all while coming to understand what my career path would be and what I would choose to pursue. So, let's get into that, shall we? Though I have gone through the rubric of my decisions to pursue graphic design, I wanted to continue on and go a little more in depth with how I wanted to continue my journey to mastery. The overarching goal of this entire Full Sail experience is to become a graphic designer. For years, I've loved art, I've loved drawing, I've loved the means with which art exists. So, with that in mind, I wanted to find a medium that I know will be a good fit for me, as well as become a good financial investment towards doing what I love. To reach my goals, I usually prefer to do one obstacle at a time. The first thing I wanted to do is sign up for work studies. If I'm going to gain experience in the industry, it's better to learn from a professional within the work environment. There are some that I have found in Fort Lauderdale, but my eyes are mostly on higher prospects. While that is the next goal on my list, the obvious overarching one is to continue my courses. After graduation, I plan to apply for marketing companies and even bigger media platforms like Disney or Sony for internships. By that time, I'll have wanted to build up my repertoire into a more respectable amount to ensure that my skills speak for myself. As the semester proceeds, I will be building a portfolio of all my work so that it can all be perfectly put together in a final project. And all of that will serve me in the applying process. As I'm applying and hopefully working for a company, I'll still be trying to hone my skills and look out for bigger prospects, but there will be 6 steps that will help me to accomplish those. The first would be building my brand. The second, reaching out to companies. This could be through internships or work studies. 3, provide freelance commissions, which could be doing graphic designs for friends, family, for a specific fee. Using Full Sail's resources, which are of many, and I will be definitely using those to my advantage in my applying process. Apply for internships, which was always the main goal. And finally, continue to practice media awareness, which is following the trends. At the end of it all, as I've built a hefty reputation for myself, I want to then pursue other avenues other than just graphic design. Illustration for books, novel writing, comic books, character designers, the choices are endless. Using my dimensional mind, I wish to pursue as many passions as I can, and I believe this master's degree will give me the credibility to do just that. I never believed I would be at this point in my life where I would see something of a future for myself. Of course, I'm not so deep into my childlike mentality that I ignore the obvious pitfalls to come, much akin to the likes of Leonardo da Vinci or Marcel Proust. I'm probably butchering that name. I must stress the details of my career choices and to endure and leave something memorable when my time comes. And despite my first attempt of not being a complete success, there's still the chance that I can find some sort of will, both in my personal life and in my teachings of these mastery courses, that can help me to reach my career dreams. Because as Maya Angelou once said, nothing will work unless you do. And that is it for my video. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you to my teachers, Dr. Spellman, who was the great teacher for this course. And I wholeheartedly appreciate what I learned from this mastery's journey. More likely than not, I'm going to basically be using everything that I've learned from this stuff. There's so much reading that I'm going to probably go back to just to really digest what I read before. But I'm very appreciative of this beginning journey. And I hope that by the end of this, once I have everything set up, my portfolio, my ideas, that I'll be able to really make something of my life. And as I've said before, find my purpose in my craft. So thank you guys for watching. And I appreciate everything that you guys have done in Full Sail. Thank you.